If you've ever thought, I have everything, so why do I still feel empty? This chapter explains why. There are three binary gates in the soul, and if even one is closed, love won't stick. Your true self can't rise, and you'll just keep running. Quick note, this is for reflection and education, not therapy or medical advice. Chapter 9, The Three Binary Gates. So, imagine it's your first week on the new job, and among your many duties that week, you're given a packet of information from the HR department and the finance department. One of the pages in that packet indicates your company's 401k terms with employer matching. You pick up that form, read it over, take it home to talk over with your spouse, eventually sign it, and then send it back to the finance department. It's a good deal, one you decide you'd be crazy not to take. Well, those actions of picking up, reading, taking home, signing, and sending back, as well as the action of allowing the direct withdrawal from your paycheck, are all driven by principles, right? I mean, you're doing it because you have values or principles that guide your life, including your finances. Underneath the surface of all of your actions are your life's principles on everything from finances to food intake, from parenting to physical finance. And it is reasonable to assume that those guiding principles in this case of your 401k might read something like always be socking money away for retirement, always have money on hand for a rainy day, don't live paycheck to paycheck, save, take a good deal when you see one, invest wisely. Well, as mentioned previously, it's not really the principles that are guiding your life, not ultimately. For below the behavior and actions of your life, and below the principles that drive them, are the real drivers of your entire operating system, your core beliefs. Beliefs, by definition, can neither be proven or disproved, or they can both be proven and disproved. They are genuinely greatly infused with, if not the outright direct result of, tremendous fear, as well as some aspiration, but mostly fear. They are something you believe, often quite apart from logic, and they are much more powerful than principles, much more compelling. In the case of your 401k, the likely core beliefs driving both the principles and eventually the actions run something like life is uncertain. We lose the ability to make money as we age. Life is scary. Life is unpredictable. It would be horrible to be dependent on others. The worst thing that can happen to me is to be destitute. I'm afraid of getting old. What if I lose my job? Every single one of those beliefs can be both proven and disproved. Life is uncertain, but it's also quite predictable. Many do lose the ability to make money as they age. Yet, a great many actually make more money the older they get, if only by compound interest alone. Life is, or can be, scary, but it is also quite routine and unintimidating. It could be bad to be dependent, but it could also be an unexpected delight for at least a while. It could be the worst thing to be destitute, but it also is in no way life's scariest thing to be destitute. Surely, the death of a loved one, particularly a child, would be infinitely worse. So, again, these are the core beliefs, something you hold on to be true, regardless of logic, reason, or provability. Yet, because they are driven by your greatest fears and most compelling aspirations, they are far more powerful than mere principles. It is your core beliefs that are truly driving your actions. Principles and values are about how you appear to others. Beliefs are the reasons you're doing what you're doing up on the level of actions and behavior patterns. As mentioned in the last chapter, change those beliefs even slightly, and everything else changes quite radically. By the time you get up through the principles to the level of actions, even the tiniest adjustments of beliefs will bring about a radical change in behaviors, whether it's regarding investments and 401k or something even more important. The fundamental mistake many therapists and clergy make, not to mention well intentioned friends, is the hyper focus on actions or behaviors, for it is on the surface of life that our problems manifest. So it is quite natural to believe that that is where the solution lies as well. It doesn't. Trying to change behaviors never changes behaviors, at least in the long term. It is the business of beliefs that are exciting and lasting stuff really happens. The three binary gates. Still, underneath all of the actions and principles is something even more powerful than the core beliefs, something that runs the whole machine, something even the core beliefs answer to. They're what I call the three binary gates. They rest on top of each other above the soul, below the core beliefs. A person can have the most wonderful and fulfilling actions, the most detailed and logical principles, and the most positive and functional core beliefs. But if any of the three binary gates is closed, it blocks the upward flow of the voice of the soul. The whole system gets gummed up, runs dry, or simply stops working. This manifests in the form of depression, anxiety, severe confusion, stops and starts, career frustration, emptiness, no sense of purpose, strong sense of unfulfillment in life, boredom, great negativity, and so many more ways. While I've done decades of work with the poor and the homeless, I've also made a fruitful and very exciting living working with tons of people who have it all: great house, great career, great spouse, great kids, great income. Everything seems great, but they are ridiculously unhappy, including great unrest in the soul and great anxiety in the head. All the actions, principles, and core beliefs seem to be just peachy, but something is so obviously amiss. It all tracks down to these three binary gates. The three binary gates are the most powerful beliefs driving your energy in every way. Each is binary, either open or closed, on or off, full or zero. Each is stacked on top of the next. They increase in intensity and importance. The deeper you go, closer to the soul. Right below your core beliefs is the first binary gate. It is simply, I am wanted or I am not wanted. The message of this first binary gate was conveyed through the words and deeds of those who were primary in your early life, and then confirmed time and time again by people throughout your life. Thereby, they become cemented in the soul. Somewhere in life, you got one of the two overriding messages: either I am wanted or I am not wanted. If you got the message, I'm not wanted, this message became an immovable, impenetrable source of core negativity and despair, blocking the flow of your true self rising up from your soul, no matter how pretty life looked on the surface. The child or adult child whose first binary gates is flipped to the off or closed position of I'm not wanted is the one who was ignored, forgotten, or pushed away. This is the kid who had the overwhelming siblings that stole all the attention in the home. This is the kid who, no matter what he or she did, couldn't get a pat on the back or a kind word to save his or her life. No matter where this child turned, he got no attention. He just could not find anyone to pour love into his love cup, contributing greatly to a feeling of being alone in the world. Where the average child is always trying to get his love cup filled, this child often becomes very desperate very early. A massive contortion of the self begins, so as to become whatever he must become to get someone, anyone, to pour love into his love cup. I have had clients who have distinct memories of feeling this way as a young 3 or 4-year-old. To feel that no one loves you leads to great emptiness and great desperation. This child, and later this adult child, will do anything to get love, positive attention, or even the slightest amount of niceness from another person, often engaging in risking or self destructive behaviors to do so. This person will engage in the pattern of behavior of giving far more love than they ever get. This is because, at the core, they believe that's all they're worth. They are just happy to get any love and give far too much love to get any small portion they ever receive. They'll spend their lives blaming mates or lovers or claiming they have a bad picker inside them that seems to always pick the wrong guys or women. But the real problem resides inside their own sense of unwantedness. If and when this person does get love, it is never ever enough. And this person will chase, unceasingly, the source of any such positive attention or niceness. Sadly, this person is easily manipulated by others, deliberately or not, who innately senses the desperation behind the pursuit. Eventually, this person simply begins attracting people who don't challenge this not wanted belief, but simply confirming it in word or deed. You wonder why you have people in your life who don't give you love and only seem to take energy, time, goodwill, emotional health from you. It's because those people are most familiar. They mirror precisely what you received by the most significant people in your life growing up. Interacting with them would be grating or annoying for many people, but for you, they're hand in glove, even for as much as you hate them or they drive you crazy. Their way of treating you is familiar and thus oddly safe. Your experience of people who are in your life but don't want you is that there is no love flowing towards you or into your life from them, except that they meet the most basic requirement. They're here with me, and that's all. But in an odd way, that feels like enough, even though it in no way is. Maybe you're the giver, giving and giving and giving love and getting never enough in return. The way we feel wanted is that there is positive balance of love and energy flowing back and forth. We feel someone giving love to us. One big effect of not feeling loved or wanted is that the child very easily translates this into an even more powerful negative belief. A child's mind very naturally converts "I'm not wanted" into "I'm no good" and "I'm not worthy of love." Unwanted becomes unworthy. What was formerly an external problem, no one around to pour love into me, has now sought a cause, a reason for the external problem. External goes internal. Something must be wrong with me. I suck. The second binary gate. Below the core beliefs is simply yet an extremely powerful belief. I am good or I'm not good. Or it can be I'm a great person or I suck. Again, it's binary, either on or off, one or the other, opened or closed. This is the really, really powerful place in which most people feel their struckness. Some can even see it clearly and articulate it. They know their own sense of self loathing. It's the second most powerful binary gate. There are many ways the second binary gate gets closed. This gate is not just about someone not getting positive attention and love and then converting that to self suckery. As with the first binary gate, this is about getting very clear negative messages and criticism. This is the girl who brought home their second grade report card with 7 A's on it, and mom's first response was, "Why'd you get the lone C?" Or it's the boy who was told after scoring 2 goals, yet fanning on the puck in front of the net in the third, which would have given the win, "You're an embarrassment." No matter what, this kid was never good enough. And the kid who feels that they're never good enough translates that message of not good enough from mom or dad or both very easily into not good enough or even to bad. Unless a distinction is made for a child between the action and the child's very identity when they're being scolded, the child, being a child, will quite naturally equate the parent's condemnation of the action, justified or not, with a condemnation of the child himself. The child's identity becomes the message conveyed consistently. And make no mistake, regardless of what you think your surface or literal message is, the child very much picks up on the underlying message that they are not good enough or no good at all. That's just how a child's mind works. And that is the message that gets pressed into the wet cement. This is especially true if the criticism comes many times over the course of a childhood. And it's quite reasonable to assume that if a kid got such messages once or twice, the kid got such messages a heck of a lot more than that. For a deliberate parent makes many mistakes, just like every other parent, but the type of mistake doesn't regularly repeat, i.e., the deliberate parent doesn't consistently make the same mistake, particularly when it holds the potential for impacting the child's very identity. So, If it happened twice, it likely happened more than twice. And so the kid made the quite natural leap from judging action to judging identity, precisely as the parent did. It is such an easy jump for a child from I did bad to I am bad. The former is the judgment of the solitary action. The latter is the indictment of the child's entire character. Or, in worst case scenarios, the child was flat out told by a critical, even abusive parent, grandparent, or aunt and uncle that they were bad. No jump required. The resulting effect on the child's love cup is that it distinctly and powerfully got something else put in it other than love. Crud. Rocks, sludge, crap, and more rocks and crud. The child who was taught to believe that she was not good enough, no good, or just plain bad began to experience the love cup filling up with negative messages. And those don't go away just because she is getting a small amount of love from other sources. It's possible to have an open first gate but closed second gate. But because the second gate is bigger and more powerful, it can do more damage by being closed, obstructing far more flow of soul up and outward to full expression. Where the person with the closed first binary gate has few or no sources of love at all, the person with a closed second binary gate experiences the insertion of powerful negative messages. Those messages usually started as judgments about her performance and or behaviors in life, but quickly translated into the mind of the child into judgments about actual self-worth. Again, the parent or significant power source of the child may have inserted these rocks and crud messages deliberately or accidentally, in words or in actions. But the underlying message was always there. The negative messaging got in, stuck, stayed, and calcified. If these messages of no good or not good enough were repeated, they became the very messages imprinted in the wet cement of the child's soul. Permanent internal negative programming, undermining every success, caused two steps back for every one forward, increasing internal emptiness even if external greatness expanded. This child who received explicit or even implicit criticism of being not good enough undergoes a radical change. She begins to fear any reminder of that message that was pressed into the cement of her soul: you're not good enough. So she created a life where there was no external hint of not good enough, no potential for criticism of inadequacy. Everything becomes the quest to hide the real self. This second gate is the gate of high achievers, and far too many women nowadays. These are the tenured professionals, multi-billionaires and millionaires, CEOs, and extreme go-getters. Life for these folk often looks super great on the surface. This woman looks totally put together, on top of it all, succeeding and up and coming. But she is chased by the dark demon of belief deep inside that nothing she does is ever good enough. She is forever proving herself, forever seeking higher praise, forever running, all the while thinking, maybe this will get me the praise that mom never gave me. And let it be known, this message of not good enough or you're inadequate is being passed from one generation to the next just as prevalently by mothers and as by fathers nowadays. And it is always driven by a parent whose own love cup is filled with the exact same crud. The crud in this child's or adult child's love cup is basically manure and stones. This person is quite literally full of crap messages, spiritual poop, and heavy negative spiritual rocks. And that's why the depression and heavy feelings kick in. The person feels just plain heavy inside. I am of the belief that the damage done to a child by spiritual abuse exceeds that of physical abuse. Physical scars eventually fade, but the messages of spiritual abuse, which are what this chapter is about, haunt and run lives amuck well into the middle age or later. These are inordinately powerful messages, particularly because they were implanted when just a child. The power of a parent over a child, as well as the extreme level of trust that a child has for the parent, combine to imbue any messages with absolute certainty and the very power of the gods themselves. As he ages, this child can fit only the tiniest amounts of love or positive attention into his or her love cup because it is so filled with negative messaging. He is quite literally full of shit. And until the crud is both identified and extracted someday, there can be no joy. This kid is simply incapable of believing they're good and lovable because they're so full of precisely the opposite messaging. This is the kid who becomes a depressed adult, a neurotic and highly anxiety adult, an adult who just can't seem to figure out what the problem is with his or her life. How can she have it all and still be miserable inside? This child or adult at some point begins trying to escape the reality of what's going on inside her. This is the manure pile and rocks from which eating disorders spring, as well as Xanax dependency, pot addiction, infidelity, bulimia, drug use, risky sexual behavior, and or so much more. Life becomes two-faced, forever trying to be perfect on the surface and forever trying to escape her own head when not trying to be perfect. This is the crud that fills the love cup, i.e., the soul, is that which blocks the flow of her true spirit and true voice rising up from within her. All of the fear driven perfection and negative messages block her soul from expressing itself. Nothing of the true self is allowed to see the light of day, instead, forced down into the darkest recesses of oneself. Showing the true self to the world would mean risking the most painful type of criticism. It is one thing to be criticized occasionally for the fake you have become, but it is infinitely more terrifying to ever be criticized when showing the real you to the world, as you did when you were a child and the first felt that deep sting of criticism. The most powerful part of your life that you're completely unaware of, the third binary gate. Yet, for as treacherous to the soul as the first and second binary gates are, they pale in comparison to the power of the third and final gate. This is the gate closest to the soul that often closes simultaneously with one of the upper gates. The bottom gate is the one that controls the whole system. Everything, all of your life, boils down to this one gate. The third gate gets closed when a young boy or girl gets the message that his grades weren't good enough, or when that child brings home an art project from preschool only to have the mother or father say with a scowl, "Why'd you use purple?" Or has a mom who rarely leaves the bedroom and is depressed and bedridden, and the kids go on about cooking, doing laundry, and fending for themselves. Or when the boy asks dad to play catch, but the dad regularly says he doesn't have time. Or when mom is too busy with her business to not just be around for the child, but to not even be fully present when she is around the child. Or when dad is an alcoholic whom everyone in the family is on eggshells around, fearful of when he will explode next. Or when the grandparents or favorite uncle always seem to favor a sibling. Or when there is a sibling that naturally gets a lot of attention. Or when mom is gone most of the time to be at her boyfriend's house, leaving the kids to cook and clean for themselves. Or when there is no mom or grandpa to tell a girl she ought to not get into drugs in middle school. Or when the 6-year-old puts on a theater production in the garage with the neighborhood kids, only to be met with condescension and or criticism from insensitive parent. And when there's a golden child in the family and you ain't it. When any such events happen to a child, the message that the child gets is who you really are is irrelevant. You need to become what I want you to be. The person with the closed third binary gate believes the real me doesn't matter, or the real me simply doesn't exist. The third binary gate is I matter, I don't matter. More accurately, the real me matters or the real me doesn't matter. The first binary gate is about the child's external world. No one wants to give me love. The second binary gate is about the child's interior world. I suck or I'm not good enough. The third binary gate is existential. The real me doesn't matter or even exists. The first binary gate is an assessment of external reality. The second binary gate is an assessment of internal reality, a value judgment. The third binary gate is not about good or bad, but whether the person's true self even matters, and that is a nuanced but significant difference. What makes the third binary gate so long lastingly more powerful is that it is not merely about value, but about the very existence of the child. the real identity of the child, as opposed to that child's function in the parent's life. It is an existential pronouncement. The real me doesn't matter, or it just doesn't exist. To say someone or something doesn't exist is incredibly powerful, but that is what the parent is doing. Or, for example, if the parent uses the child to dump the parent's problems onto, the child's significance and existence gets minimized, even negated. This far too common occurrence instills in the child several messages, not the least of which is, you exist to serve me. You exist to serve my emotional needs, and your problems don't matter, mine do, or mine, and by natural extension me, matter more than yours or you, such as is often also conveyed by the alcoholic or abusive parent. This is a very easy message for a child to get. For example, it may start from a parent saying, I'm sorry, I'll miss your dinner or soccer game or school or play, birthday party, but I have to work and work is important. If it happens enough times, the child very easily and naturally translates this into work is more important than me, which is just a small step from I'm not important, eventually becoming I don't matter. This may seem silly or even easily surmountable for an adult, but it is neither silly nor easy for an adult because it has become written into the cement of their soul, and it is inordinately powerful for a child. This is exactly how a child's mind thinks. Actions carry meanings. Carried out enough times, these actions become meanings that a child takes on as part of his or her identity, pressed into the wet cement of her soul, and this is never good. What happens when a child gets any of these messages, but particularly the third one, is that she says, screw this pain, and without even knowing it, takes the real me and sticks it in an imaginary cigar box, wraps that box in a hardcore duct tape, and sticks that box way down deep inside of herself, under the bed next to the Christmas sweaters, never to be opened again. This child then becomes whoever he or she has to be to win positive attention and avoid negative attention or criticism. So painful is the message that the real you doesn't matter, that the single biggest fear of life becomes showing the world who you really are. The rest of his or her life is spent hiding, running from the pain, and living in some form or another of soul misery. Period. End of story. For any sort of criticism from a childhood forward becomes highly charged reminder of the pain from that childhood, when it was conveyed to her in no uncertain actions that who she really is just doesn't matter. Why? The effect of that third binary gate being closed is that a hole gets punched in the bottom of the love cup. And that hole is small enough to keep any solid crud or rocks of the negative messages that may come in, yet big enough to drain out all of the liquid love of positive messages. This is huge. A hole in the bottom of the love cup of the soul changes everything, effectively negating the ability to acquire and pool any feelings of love inside. A love cup with a hole in the bottom means that the bearer will never feel loved or feel good, except in fleeting moments of ecstasy from some sort of drug or experience. Poke a hole in the styrofoam cup, then pour water into it from a pitcher. Run your finger along the inside of a cup after you've poured the water and it has drained out. The inside walls of the cup are moist. There is residue of the love poured in, but it is only residue, only a reminder. The love never pools inside, it just teases and is gone. Believing in the very negation of his existence, this child or adult child is simply incapable of containing love. It just drains out. There is never enough coming in, and it may feel good passing through, but it never stays. The child, as adult, may have everything in life, all the successes and veneer of having it together, but deep inside, pressed into the very bedrock of his soul, is the belief that the real me doesn't matter. This person feeling loved is always dependent upon something or someone external. She can't feel loved or even feel good by herself because herself is empty, or maybe empty of love. Instead, she's full of crud messages. This person is forever dependent upon her exterior life to feed her interior life and thereby pour love into her. And quite frankly, there is never enough love or love sources. By the way, this person, as a partner, bleeds her children of their life energy, whether they are aware of it or not. She is a spiritual vampire. However, the worst part about the hole in the bottom of the love cup is that this person has a visceral feeling of hopelessness. When there is a hole in the bottom of the love cup, there is literally no hope of ever being filled up with love. How could there be? Any love that flows in is gone just as soon as it came. The growing awareness and the unending emptiness of the cup quite naturally is experienced as hopelessness. A hole in the love cup means there is no hope of ever being filled with love, and this produces anxiety, high anxiety, and franticness, and a powerful, deep depression that most people, therapists, and clergy can never quite put their finger on. Like that damn squirrel frantically foraging for nuts, this person feels the coming winter and is certain of the instant depletion of anything good that comes. Certain of death, there is always looming sorrow. And so the reason people engage in all manner of negative actions, bad behaviors, or paths that hold the potential to greatly screw up their lives is because they live in fear of running out of love. So they frantically forage in all directions, no matter how dangerous those directions might be. Driving it all is the fear of showing the world who they really are, because they've been told their real self just does not matter. They've been wounded at the very deepest level. So they keep the surface clean and engage in all manner of escapism beneath the surface, out of sight from judgment and criticizing eyes. They cannot find love in honest ways of standing up for their needs because they do not believe that their own needs truly matter or even exist. They simply are incapable of believing that they even have worth enough to ask. They don't matter, at least not in the real self. The only pseudo mattering is the fake self, the persona. They laborator or they laboriously built over decades. For it is that persona that others feed off of, give approval to, and deem to matter. And it's all a lie. Marital infidelity, for example, that hidden form of foraging for cheap and unfair positive attention and life energy, is always rooted in the fear of truly showing my real self to my spouse, not to mention the world, because such vulnerability is unthinkable. It is way too scary in no small part because the relationship was built on my being this fake self. Rather than stand up or speak one's truth, rather than be strong and insist on what life would truly make him happy, this person hides his real self out of the sheer terror. Cheating is always generated by fear. Always. The power of the third gate is that it keeps people locked in fake lives that are inherently unfulfilling, mind numbing, and soul crushing. It keeps the real you forever hidden. Everything, everything, everything is driven by fear, and this is weakness. The imprinting of this message into the cement of the soul is so strong that the original source of the message could have long ago faded away, but it still rings in the head of the one who received it. This great lie that got imprinted in the soul is so powerful that it becomes the person's own identity. The voice of the parent becomes indistinguishable from the child or adult's own voice. He thinks he hates himself when really it was a lie that was implanted someone else's hate or indifference. Worst of all, the voice or actions of the parent are no longer needed for the perpetuation of this completely debilitating message. The adult child owns it now. Look out if that parent who was the original source of the messages dies. Don't think the message dies with the parent. Quite the opposite. Death often makes it 10 times worse because the parent and her message are then viewed with nostalgia and a certain gravitas we afford only the dead. It becomes much more difficult to extract the voice in this case. And the message inside just runs on this infinite, never ending loop of I don't matter. The real me just doesn't matter. On and on forever sucking the life out of your very soul. You no longer own yourself, but you are owned by an external power source that has become internalized, and decades of pain ensue, no matter how good or perfect you may look on the outside. The source of all your pain in life is the fear of becoming the real you. To be, say, do, and become on the outside that which you are in the deepest depths of your insides is unthinkable. The fear of speaking your truth and living your real self are at the root of it all. It is the fear of what others will think, say, and do if you show the world who you really are. Tragically, you will never be happy until you do the one thing you're most afraid of. Remove the fear and then be, say, do, have, look like, live wherever, and become that which your soul is calling you to. Until you become the real you, until you finally matter to you, there will be no joy, no lasting peace, no fulfillment, and no sensation to the running and anxiety that grip your soul. Song recommendation: download and listen to Let Me Be Myself by Three Doors Down. Real spiritual stuff.
Take a moment to notice what stirred for you as you listened. You don't need to fix it or understand it yet. If this resonated, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what stood out for you. You can also find the full series and my work linked below.